Black and white, love and hate, life and death. It's said there's a thin line between them, and it's true, I suppose. But that thin line is a piece of string stretched across the Grand Canyon of misunderstanding. Reminds me of an old joke, something to do with insanity, and a beam of light, not much on the detail. A punchline though, it's about to fall. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of From the Heart. This is going to be the last Batman one that I do for a little bit, but I gotta say, this is the last one that I read. I just read this thing today, Batman the Damned by Azzarello and Bermejo, if that's how you say that. I hope I got that right. But I gotta say, this is by far the coolest Batman comic I've read yet. This thing absolutely blew my mind. This is a story that you cannot come into knowing it, or you're just gonna ruin the best part of it, which is the ending. This one actually has Constantine in it, John Constantine and Batman teaming up. The Joker is dead. He's dead. Right, it's in the description. Don't worry about that part. It's alright. You can know that part. But yes, one of the coolest little team-ups that I've ever seen, and one of the coolest premises that I've seen as well. Alright, this is DC Black Label. This is my first journey into a DC Black Label book, and I gotta say, I'm getting more of these bad boys. Alright, this is some of the coolest artwork I've ever seen. This is some of the coolest storytelling I've ever seen out of a DC comic that I've read yet. Not that I've read a ton, you know, I've only read maybe 5 or 6 at this point. But holy shit, are we past the 30-second mark? Either way, it doesn't matter. This one gave me the feeling, you know, as soon as I finished it, one of the first comic books would really make me just go, hell yeah. Alright, I need more of this. Whatever this is, this dark and gritty world, it was just absolutely perfect. The artwork in this alone is just so stellar, so dark and gritty. I can't believe how cheap this was. I do think this one was like 15 bucks. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous, alright? Some of the stuff that you see in this, the way that it reads, it's all just perfect, alright? You could actually say that this kind of reads off like poetry. Through most of this book, you're gonna see John Constantine narrating what's going on. You know, not a ton of dialogue. Obviously, there is a lot of dialogue, not a lot, alright? And I will say, it is extremely confusing at points, just the way Constantine reads it. And I gotta say, if you read Constantine's voice as like an Irishman or an Englishman or something, it's gonna make it a lot more sense, alright? Because I guess he is an Englishman. Some character says that in this. I never knew that. I've only seen the movie with Keanu Reeves or whatever, but, you know, this is a damn good version of Constantine. He's smoking, he's talking, he's undermining Batman and making little quips, and Batman's getting pissed. That's not the best part of this. If you have any plan at all to read this, don't watch this. As much as I want you to watch this video and give me that sweet watch time, just don't do it, alright? Don't ruin it for yourself. You're gonna be able to get through most of this video without knowing the ending. The ending is what you don't want to know, alright? That is the part that is kind of crucial to making this comic book absolutely awesome. And I gotta say, I was completely confused on to what exactly was going on throughout most of this until I got to the ending. The payoff was just so absolutely stellar. So let's talk about it. This is a book. This is a Black Label book, so I don't believe any of this is canon. You begin the story with a heartbeat monitor, and a picture of Batman in an ambulance hospital bed. And I gotta say, like I said, the artwork in this is so fantastic. Some of the most detailed, some of the most artistic stuff that I've seen in any of the comic books I've read yet. It's obviously the highlight of this, you know, like it reads off like poetry. It kind of reminds me of being read like some of the, like, you know, every Thursday when I was a kid in elementary school, they'd have a lady come in with like a big art book or whatever, and she'd read it to you. And this thing is big, it's bolsterous, and it's beautiful. And I think you've really got to appreciate that. I can't believe how cheap this was. The artist in this, so absolutely fantastic. I don't know if it's Bermejo or Azzarello, or if they just wrote it. I should probably know these things. But yes, so we start off in an ambulance. Batman's just kind of laying there. There's some people in this ambulance with him, and they're all kind of talking as Batman is kind of trying to cling to consciousness. And they're kind of like, yo, maybe we haven't checked his face, covered up with his mask, and maybe we get to see his face before anybody else in the world does. They begin to try cutting off his mask, and Batman kind of just like wakes up like a caged animal, and he's like, what is happening here? Alright, he's looking around, all these ambulance people are like, holy shit, Batman, alright, we're on your side, dog. Please don't break our spines. We know your policy. We know we won't die, but we enjoy our vertebrae. is what I would call it in the first place, alright? They're a little bit scared. One of the people starts cutting off his mask. He wakes up, and suddenly Batman is knocking heads into the goddamn wall. Alright, he feels like a caged animal. You got John Constantine actually talking about this, and if you know the beginning speech that I just did, it's like the very first page of this, you might have a good idea about what exactly this book is going to be about. So Batman cracks a few heads. One of the police officers points a gun at him, and he tells him, you know, Batman, don't do this. We're on your side. Don't make me shoot you. And what do you know? Batman plunges through the back of this ambulance, just smashing him through to the concrete. And John Constantine kind of makes a cool little thing. He's actually talking about, if you feel backed into a corner like an animal, everybody outside is like, stay back. He's dangerous, and Batman's like, I'm not dangerous. I'm just trying to get out of here. This is happening. John's like, he's desperate. He's worse than desperate. He's backed into a corner like an animal. And the rest of this shows Batman like running through alleyways and stuff, just trying to get away, trying to find a place to stay. He's very, very badly injured. He finally finds himself a little place in an alleyway, and he's talking, he wants Alfred, and then what do you know, it shows him falling off this bridge. Yes, it shows him plunging into the water. He starts kind of seeing his parents and stuff. He's semi-unconscious. You can tell something very bad is going down, and that Batman's just stringing along for survival. He's seeing all these visions. He feels something on his feet grabbing him. He ends up making it, and this is where Constantine comes into play. Batman's crawled himself out of this river. He's now in another alleyway. He's calling for Alfred, and it's just John Constantine lighting up a cigarette. To some very badass artwork. I mean, I've never read any Constantine comic books, but I'm definitely going to check that out afterwards. Bringing him in for this specific story was such an amazing idea now that I think about it. But anyways, Constantine picks him up, and he brings him back into this apartment place where Batman awakes to seeing all these different like runes. He doesn't know what he's doing, alright, and John Constantine is making all these badass little remarks. This actually starts going through Bruce Wayne's like childhood a little bit with his parents. It shows him like playing on a playground, and throughout this you're going to start to notice that Bruce Wayne's parents are not doing so well. Okay, they're kind of fighting off in the distance. Mr. Wayne himself is hanging out with some ladies. Mrs. Wayne is not happy about this. But one crucial thing about this that kind of makes it a little more interesting, so we don't have to listen to the same goddamn origin story all the time, is they start bringing in this witch lady that Bruce Wayne kind of sees. He's talking about his secret and all these different things. I don't know if this is a recurring character or if this is like a Constantine character. I found her to be very interesting, the way they use her throughout the book. This whole thing is very kind of grotesque. It feels very dirty. And the whole thing is just really very gritty. It's very different from any other Batman story. And I would love to see this specific thing as a movie, but I don't know if they'll ever actually do that. Batman's waking up. John Constantine kind of says, you need a friend, Batman, and that's why I'm here. He says Alfred's gone. He's on vacation for the day, which is very interesting. You know, Alfred doesn't take any breaks. Alfred is always there for Bruce at any whim. So the fact that he's on vacation is very, very strange. Batman goes, I know you, and he goes, I know you too. So let's just skip the formalities, and instantly we're cutting to them looking at the TV right here, where it says police discover body in Gotham River, and then it says it seems that a decade-long nightmare is over. And as you go on, they find Joker's body down in this river, which is going to be the premise for this whole thing. You know, Batman needs to know what exactly happened. How did he die? He's kind of sad about it, but he needs to figure this all out. Now, another thing that's going on is these ghosts that are kind of following John Constantine. These kind of ghosts that help him throughout this thing. This ghost can actually take place in people's bodies for a quick second. He said he's kind of like puke, or the sensation before puking, you know. He doesn't last long before somebody casts him out of his body. And this guy's name is Brand Boston, and which is another guy that I have no idea who he was. Ended up being a pretty interesting character. I don't know if he's also like a Constantine thing. I have no idea. But yes, the Joker is dead, as you can see right here. Instantly, Batman's like, what the fuck? Who did this? You know, my best friend. Oh shit, I can't say that. All right, nobody can ever know that we're actually friends. And he's just gone. You know, he does his Batman thing. He pops out of the window, and John Constantine's just like, bloody hell. You know, why is he always doing this? A thing that I love about this book is John Constantine's narration through the entire thing. Like I said, it's gonna help you a lot to read it in your mind as an Englishman or with like an Irish accent or something. It makes it a lot more sense. The writing in this is kind of hard to follow. It's just the way it's written. The words are kind of like word salad sometimes, but it's very beautiful. It reads off a lot like poetry. I really enjoyed that factor of it, you know. Like I said, there's not like a ton of dialogue that you see in like The Boys or just other very dialogue-heavy comics. This is a lot more about the artwork and the things that are going on. This reoccurring story with Bruce Wayne and his dad just kind of being shitty and bringing him to all these places to go meet these women as he tells, you know, Bruce to hang over them. See how long it takes your spit to hit the bottom of this bridge. Use this penny and try that while I talk to this fine little lassie. And this little lassie's kind of getting pissed. Mr. Wayne loves his kid, and he's like, yo, if you're gonna have a piece of me, you gotta deal with my little bitch of a son. So at least that part holds up, you know. He's cheating, but he still loves his kid. Next thing you know, Batman is out on the streets once again, trying to figure out what's going on. He notices Officer Jim Gordon talking to this weird homeless guy or whatever that said he has seen a demon. He watched it all happen. He's talking about a devil that's come to Gotham that has fallen from the sky. Batman needs to know his information. And another thing that I love about this is as John Constantine's kind of narrating all this, he's just doing these little speeches. I'll just read you a little excerpt of this. It goes, I wager not the man who finds fun to break him. Oi, friend, it's too late for that. You can't take back what you've seen or what you've said. He heard you, and now he needs to know what you know. It's just like Batman, you know, he goes on these crazed little deals where he does need to track down these people, and he does need to know exactly what the hell they know, because it's going to be crucial to his investigation. Batman is very disoriented in this. He doesn't know exactly what's going on. He's just kind of like in a fever dream to figure out what the hell is going on. How did he end up here? You know, how did the Joker actually die? And there's a recurring theme of this homeless guy kind of popping up and saying, like, I know what you did. You know, there's a lot of people in this that think Batman's the one that actually killed the Joker. Batman doesn't think so. The best thing about this, you know, you're gonna get yourself a whole fucking handful of some Bruce Wayne ass. Yes, alright, you see Batman's butt quite a few times in this, and but that's not the point. Batman ends up back at his Batcave, and you actually get to learn that his Batcave is very sophisticated. You know, he's rescanned for recent wounds or scar tissue, and it's like scanning his body as he's just kind of walking around. And his Bat computer can't seem to find any remarks of a stab wound. That's something you see in the very beginning. Is he's been stabbed kind of in the lung. He's been just like beat down hardcore. Something, he was in a tussle. That is for sure. A big time tussle. This is where the artwork and stuff starts coming in handy as, you know, Batman's ass, whatever. But you get to see all of his suits and stuff as he's walking around. He's got like these disguises and things like that. He's starting to be haunted by these visions and stuff, you know. Right here he's kind of next to his super suit or whatever, and it's like reaching out to grab him, and actually like scares him almost to death. He's like crawling on the ground, crying, begging, pleading, no, no, no. So eventually Batman goes off and he becomes the homeless guy, alright? He's trying to sit in the streets and he's trying to learn some information. He happens upon this lady right here, who I kind of thought was Harley Quinn at first, but now I don't think so. I'm more thinking maybe she's a reoccurring Constantine character. I wish I knew if these were just like one-off people or not, but she's very interesting. She's a magician, you know, she's playing all these tricks and things like that, but she obviously knows something about the Batman, alright? You know, he's posing as this homeless guy, and he kind of ruins this bet that's going on. As this Brando ghost is like starting to possess people, he very clearly is trying to communicate with Batman in some sort of way by possessing people. He possesses a few different ones. He actually possesses a dog at some point, but he's trying to tell him some kind of message. You know, the ghost is saying, there's a conspiracy against the dark forces, man, and you don't, and then like they kind of just puke him up. He never gets to exactly finish what he's talking about, but the artwork is just so beautiful, man. You know, this is the likes of like something you'd see out of Spawn. This whole book is just so beautifully written. But eventually, after this lady's done doing all of her tricks and kind of swindling these people, she asks Batman himself, as he's in disguise, alright, to pick a card. And then what does she say? This is your friend, right? And she pulls out a card saying the Joker. Yes, there's lots of foreshadowing going on here. I don't want to explain the entire book, but there's a lot of really good parts in this. A lot of characters that I never thought I'd see, and a lot of really just horror-esque things going on. You have lots of stuff going on with Bruce Wayne and this witch lady, who just keeps going on and on about these secrets that she needs to keep and these deals that have already been made, and for him not to be afraid. She calls him tearless. She says, in order for you to be fearless, you need to be tearless, and it just goes on and on as you kind of see his parents fighting and things unraveling. There's some very interesting art in here where it's just super good, alright? You got some of this stuff. Eventually, Batman and Constantine end up going to this church where something has happened, and they actually find a Joker-fied Jesus Christ on the cross. Very interesting stuff. He starts to believe that maybe Joker isn't actually dead. Something even bigger is going on. Here's some more of these more horror-esque stuff. You got like bats being sewn into the Batman's chest himself as like a child. Some other stuff, you got this giant cityscape, and I don't know, like I said, I can't believe how cheap this was, man. This is basically like a coffee table art book. It's just so beautiful, all the shading, I can't tell if it's like painting or if it's like watercolors. You got lots of John Constantine smoking, and the smoke effects just look great. You get lots of humor between Batman and John Constantine himself. As they're kind of talking, Batman's kind of getting sick of being psychoanalyzed by Constantine himself, because he's just kind of here as he tells him, you need a friend, you need some help, and he's just not really saying much. He's just kind of going along with Batman on the ride. Eventually, after finding this, they end up going to some kind of nightclub. You got this scene right here where Batman's watching his dad go away. John Constantine's talking and goes, "But sadness begets madness, right, mad little boy? Then badness. Such a bad little boy. Easier emotions to live with." And it's just kind of going through Bruce Wayne's childhood and all his feelings as his parents' marriage kind of starts to crumble. I thought these parts were very interesting, It doesn't just cut to his parents being shot in an alleyway. There's a little more going on here. None of this is canon, I'm pretty sure. Like I said, this is a Black Label thing, so it's all just like really cool legend work and things like that. Eventually they kind of go to this little nightclub right here. They start seeing this guy. I think his name is actually Blood. It's very neat. Batman's walking into here, and this is kind of like just a super metal place. All these people are just shouting blood at this guy right here. He's just rhyming constantly in Batman's face. Nobody really wants to see him. He knows that Batman's kind of hiding something behind his mask, and he kind of pulls up his henchmen and things like this. Ghost takes over one of the guys. He grabs Batman's shoulder as they're in a ring of guns around his head, and he's like, "I got your back, dude." Starts waving a gun, and Batman actually knocks that shit out of his hand. He says, "I don't play that shit, homie. I don't do none of that." Just a lot of really interesting areas. I don't know if you can see all this, like when I'm talking about the dialogue, that there isn't very much. The story is very well told. I think it's something that I'd like to read again after knowing what exactly is going on, and it might make a little more sense. But you got the recurring theme of this witch. You actually get some other parts where like Harley Quinn comes into place, and you have this nice little moment where she's talking about how she doesn't want to live anymore. The Joker's dead, and that means that Batman needs to die as well. She's like beating the shit out of Batman with this bat. Eventually, she injects him with this little poison vial or something, and she kind of knocks him out, but not before that. He grabs the bat, and she's talking about, "Hit me again, keep hitting me. I don't want to live. I can't live without him. Harley, it's over." It is. Shink! And she fucking sticks him with this, and then Batman's kind of screaming no, and she's just kind of mocking him to his face and telling him, this is all you ever say. You're always just screaming, no, no, no. And she actually gets on top of him, takes his belt off and stuff. Something very interesting is going on here. She's licking his face until he passes out. Who knows what exactly happens after that? It's a little bit risque, but very interesting nonetheless. But once he's finally knocked out, he awakens inside of a coffin underground. You get this really awesome artwork right here where there's a bat surrounding his heart, and it's slowly unfolding. And this is where I could really see a good animation or even a live action movie that might do very well. But he's stuck, man. Alright, he's stuck down in this place. You know, he's about to kind of start freaking out because he's always been in control, and now he's in a situation where there is no control. And John Constantine's kind of going on about how all these self-control people enjoying their life is very taboo. He doesn't think Batman can do it. But all of a sudden, you know, there's all these roots and stuff that are cracking up, and I started getting very confused here. Like I said, it's very weird to see Batman in these very, like, occult horror situations in this. I didn't know, like, what's real, what's just, like, a weird little vision going on. But these roots start tearing apart this coffin as he's just sitting underneath the ground. There's a crazy, really cool cameo here by Swamp Thing, actually. He comes into play. He kind of saves Batman from the ground. Harley, I'm assuming, has buried him here. He starts talking to Batman. He starts telling him, you know, don't trust John Constantine. He just likes to watch people suffer. He's never actually been on anybody's side. He's just kind of been along the ride for the suffering. This is what he likes to do. He likes to watch. Again, the artwork here is absolutely phenomenal. We have Swamp Thing, Batman, and Constantine all having this really neat little conversation. We actually have John Constantine wearing Robin's, like, old mask and stuff, and I'm not sure if this is just to kind of, like, upset Batman, just to remind him about what happened to Robin. I thought this was really awesome. I used to read Swamp Thing as a kid. I had a couple of the comic books, and I always thought it was a very interesting character. I don't remember a whole lot of whether Swamp Thing is good, bad, or just, like, environmentally friendly. It's very cool to see him here, you know, he's huge. He just keeps telling Batman, you know, do not trust this man. He is not your friend. And Constantine's like, no, I'm more than your friend. I'm the best chance you've got. Swamp Thing's like, I've heard that before, man. You're such a little shit. You're lying to me right now. I've never seen any other crossover between Swamp Thing and Constantine's, but there's obviously some bad blood here. This is where you start to get some more, like, demonic stuff. Statues start coming to life. They're trying to kill everybody, and they're all kind of tied to this little witch lady that's been occurring in these background visions we've been seeing throughout this entire thing. So you get some awesome little fight scenes as, like, Swamp Thing's trying to smash all the statues around them. Constantine's just kind of running from his life as this witch lady just keeps appearing, and she's kind of talking to him, and she's saying, you be mine, I be your secrets, I be your first love, I be the first kiss, I be the first blood. You know, Batman's, like, getting his face torn apart, everybody's struggling, but eventually they do get out of this. Constantine's just kind of like, oh, you've hurt this lady's feelings. And Batman tells him, he says, shut it, you ass. Swamp Thing really digs this. He's like, heh, I knew there was a reason I liked you, Knight. Constantine is right, though. Humanity needs fear. I wonder, what will it make of it? I really like these little extra colored bubbles for Swamp Thing. They're like red, and there's just a lot of detail here. A lot of things to make this a lot more interesting. And finally, we get to the part that we've all been waiting for, which is Bruce Wayne's parents dying at this towards the end of the book. He's going through these final visions with this little lady, and it just kind of cuts in and out, you know, and then you read a few pages of the current situation, and then it'll cut back to what's going on in his childhood. Batman and Constantine end up getting into this magician hall where Constantine has been before. He tells Batman, you know, this is the place where people go for information they may not even want to know. But they find the lady again that was swindling people out in the streets with magic tricks. Brand comes back. He starts possessing these people. And what they're trying to do is to kind of do a possession on everybody. Remember just what exactly happened. Batman, the Joker, just all these missing pieces. Bruce Wayne himself needs to figure out to, you know, maybe figure out something huge. Something very near and dear. She eventually kind of like possesses Batman and makes him remember the rest of his little childhood, which was very interesting. All the artwork and stuff for this is great as well, but he's back. Batman's like, please no. He says, why in the fuck would you bring me back here, Constantine, to watch my parents die? And Constantine's just like, well, here's the bit, Batman. Neither myself nor God have anything to do with this. So this is all just kind of Batman going in and out of these memories on his own accord and bringing all these people with you. And you might start to think, this is getting very interesting. This witch lady kind of forces Bruce to watch his parents be murdered by the henchman. Bruce, be mine. Constantine, mine. Deal made, not to be broken. And she keeps going on and on about this deal. And this is where Bruce Wayne finally actually sees himself as a child laying dead with his parents in the street instead of actually surviving. I found this very interesting. Constantine kind of tells me, no, this is your past. This is something that you need to walk away from and stop talking about, stop worrying about it. You need to move on. But Batman kind of just doesn't know how. You know, he keeps thinking this is all just kind of like something to do with Constantine's ego. He finally says, I'm going to the morgue. I need to see Joker's body. And that is where he's headed. Now from here, you need to stop watching if you have any plan of reading this. All right, listen to me. If you listen to this part, this book will still be very good, but the payoff is going to be not nearly as great. So Batman arrives at this morgue. That homeless guy that's been kind of following him everywhere, telling him, you know, I know what you did. He like just keeps blaming Batman. Finally, Batman confronts him. He's walking toward this man, and the man's saying, Batman, you fought for hell for your soul, and now you stand before me in judgment. You know what you did. And Batman kind of just goes, I know. This is where everything starts making more sense. Like I said, this book is very confusing, just the way it's worded and all these different events that are going on, all these supernatural events. You know, it's very hard to tell what's real and what's not. It shows Batman and Joker fighting, and he says, I know what I didn't do. And what Batman didn't do was hold back. This may have been the final fight. It shows Joker piercing him in the lungs with this knife. Batman punching him so hard that he's knocked off this bridge. It shows Joker hanging off the edge. Batman starts talking about, you know, he was afraid to save him. He was afraid of what would happen if he did save him once again, whether he'd just start murdering bunches of people again, you know? Like, this is the point where he starts to think, you know, what is the actual point? Joker ends up falling. He ends up falling to his death, alright? And this is how they actually find his body in the river. Now, if you remember from the Killing Joke video, or if you've read it yourself, Joker does a beam of light joke in that one as well. And that is actually the beginning of this, is John Constantine talking about that. If you know about the last 3 panels in the Killing Joke, where a lot of people actually think this is where Batman finally killed the Joker, this is going to start making a lot more sense. Now, outside of this flashback, he is in the morgue with this guy, and he says, you must pay for your crime. And Batman's just kind of like, aren't you being a little harsh? And this guy just kind of tells him, you know, this is how you judge everybody. You will be held up to the same account. But Batman's kind of sad, you know. He's thinking, like, the Joker's murdered thousands of people. Why should he be judged so harshly for this one incident? But he eventually says, I wish he were still here. And then it shows him being sucked into the actual morgue where they kept the bodies. And that's where shit starts getting crazy. And here we are, back where we started, I fall, towards the ending of our story. Or perhaps the beginning. And it shows Joker plummeting to the bottom, like we did see in the very beginning with the Batman falling off the bridge, and then getting out of the water and sporadically escaping. This shit is so crazy. And then we see the heartbeat like we see in the beginning, and then it just says, or is it just the start of another story? Now, what do you think this means? Why do you think Constantine, of all people, would be hanging around the Batman being super vague? What does Constantine do? What is the Killing Joke? This is the part that really confused me. I was like, I don't get it. Are they like stuck in a time loop where they just keep swapping places where Batman survives, Joker survives, just back and forth? No, Constantine is there. Like I said, if you want to read this fucking book, go away. Alright, don't listen to me right now. Batman's been dead this entire time, and Constantine is only there to help him traverse through this limbo and understand what exactly has happened to him. The Joker has actually finally killed him, stabbing him in the lung or the heart or whatever, but this was the final battle where Batman finally died. The Killing Joke, the beam of light, 2 insane men. And I just thought this was so awesome. All these little, like, if you've read all these different parts, all these different things, that's one thing that's so good about comic books, is the more and more you read them, the better other ones get, with all these small little references and clues to things that have happened in the past. You know, this has been a cycle that was bound to happen. You know, even in the Killing Joke, when Batman went to Gotham Arkham Asylum just to talk to the Joker about, hey, one of us is going to die. We can stop this. We don't need to keep killing each other. We don't need to keep doing this insane little circle. Well, it's all been brought to fruition in this book, and goddamn was that such an awesome payoff that I, for some reason, never put together. Of like, that is a good question. Why would John Constantine be hanging out with the Batman? A man that kind of helps dead people traverse to the end stage, or help figure out their last whims and wishes, and just help them kind of understand what exactly has happened to them. And I gotta say, Batman the Damned, the coolest comic book I have read yet. Like I said, not a ton of dialogue, but mega artsy, mega emotional, super gritty. and it's just a fantastic read. Alright, this was way better than I thought it would be. Alright, I thought this would be just like, you know, Batman and Constantine just being like, who killed the Joker? But it's not. It's a lot better than that. It's actually a story about a dead man who doesn't know he's dead, and another one trying to bring him to the answers, trying to let him know you need to move on. You need to just keep going and forget the past without outright saying it. He needs to let Batman kind of figure out this for himself. And I thought this was just an incredibly smart book. Just so good. I'm gonna read it probably a couple more times just to fully understand it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the gist due to all of my Google searching, because I was so goddamn confused throughout this entire thing. But yes, everybody, this has been Batman the Damned by Azzarello Bermejo. I don't know if that's one guy or two guys. I'm pretty sure, yes, it's two guys. Probably the writer and the artist, or maybe they're both just the writer. I don't know who did the art at that point. Super good, really cheap. You need to pick this up, and I'm definitely going to be looking into a lot more of DC Black Label. Now, I've also read that this is kind of a sequel to The Joker, which I forget, there's another little segment after that, but it's just a strictly Joker comic book. I've never heard of DC Black Label, and I'm very glad I have now, because if it's got more of these stories, even if they're not canon, I really don't care. I just want some more super gritty stuff, some more artsy stuff, and some more like emotional kind of things, because that's what I enjoy. I don't want campiness. The Death in the Family was very good, but overall, you know, it was pretty campy and didn't take itself super seriously, especially when it came to the death of Robin. That could have been a very super heart-wrenching part, but what do you know, he just kind of bashes his brains out in 6 quick panels, and then it's basically done. You know, you see the Batman carrying him out. This, you know, it really hammers home on the heartstrings, while also giving you some really great visuals. Some of the best graphics that I've seen in a recent comic book that I've owned myself yet. So, everybody, Batman the Damned, amazing. Alright, I'll give 9 out of 10, for sure. The only reason I say 9 out of 10, because some of the writing in this, the wording and things like that, is very hard to understand. So like I said, it didn't all click until I started reading it in my noggin as an Irishman or an Englishman or whatever John Constantine is. And then it started picking up pace in my head a little bit. So yes, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you are just as excited about this one as me. Let me know down in the bottom maybe some more comics that I can get into that are just as good as this, or just stories that are very one-off, very special, just really good little mind benders. And I hope I did a decent job at explaining this awesome book. So yes, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you can tell how excited I was after reading this. Like I said, I read this in one sitting on the car ride home from work just today. Forced my little brother to drive home, and I fucking pounded right through that thing, man. And it was easy. Super easy. But yes, everybody, for the last time, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that these are enjoyable. And let me know some of the better storylines that I should be getting into next, Batman or not. I'm not trying to only do Batman stuff. I just kind of going through the wormhole, you know. But the next things we have Evil Dead coming. We have The Dark Tower coming, which I'm so excited for. One of my all-time favorite books ever. I'm really excited to see an origin story in comic form for that. And there's just so many awesome little stories, you know. Eventually I might start doing books, but I'm just getting into comics lately. I think they're absolutely fantastic. Well, have yourself a fantastic day. Cut. Fade to black. Alright. I'm gonna shut the fuck up. See you later.